And your first name? Julie. Smith. Okay, that's easy.
The editor about the little comments they made
I've got to find out how to get a hold of the local who was?
The local.
I need a local person to send a letter to you. After this. Could you email me his address or something? Because I'm going to send it like.
Oh, you brought your.
Okay. I'll even let you. Send your We're off tomorrow.
Luciana. They brought those. We're taking away your sister. Good. Taking some too, but the more the better.
We're going to start. I want to thank you all for coming. I don't know if you can hear me. I don't know if this is going to work to keep this behind the thing, the speaker. Is this all right? I'll just talk about it. Many of you have been getting email notices and posts from, I know people in the media have received information from the public relations specialist here, so I appreciate and thank the Primate Center for helping us promote the event. A notice went out yesterday from the Foundation for Biomedical Research promoting the event, and I thank them as well. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Rick Bogle. I have one fan in the crowd. 8 years ago, I was sitting in front of the Oregon National Primate Research Center. And across the street from the Oregon Center, which is one of the 8 national primate research centers around the United States, one of the flagship primate research laboratories in the United States, founded and controlled by the National Institutes of Health. I had an idea because there was a vacant lot across the street from the Oregon Center. And I thought, at my time, I was wondering why in the world was the animal rights movement having such a difficult time gaining traction? Why wasn't media paying attention? And what happens is it seems like we have these sudden events that happen. An organization will have a campaign. The campaign will raise some interest. People will hear about it, and then it dies down and it goes away. So we have to find some way to keep the debate alive, to keep something permanently in front of the public so that they can understand what's going on all of the time. If we forget, as everybody does, then we have to start all over again when something new comes about. So we've been scratching our heads and wondering, what can we do to keep people talking about the issue all of the time? I think that it's going to rain. I was going to give a little tour. I'm going to skip the tour, but let me tell you where we're at for those of you who don't know. On each side of me, not the building that's behind me, this is private property we're on here, but the building to my right is the Harlow Primate Psychology Lab, and the building to my left and behind me is the Wisconsin National Primate Research Center. In the Harlow Lab, there's about 500 monkeys, and in the Wisconsin Center, there's about 1,500 more. So all around us right now, there's about 2,000 monkeys in cages. Many of the monkeys in this facility, the Wisconsin Center and in Harlow, some of them are pair housed, but there's also a number of monkeys that are locked alone in cages. We know that many of the monkeys in the cages around here have permanent fixtures on the tops of their skulls with electrodes into their brains. They're periodically taken, they're strapped into a chair, they're asked to perform certain experiments so that people can study what's going on in their brains while they're doing those things. We know from documents that we've received recently from the facility that some of the monkeys that have this done, the people that screw these things on tops of their heads, sometimes sort of goof up. Recently, it was actually not so long ago, but some of the monkeys were dying and they couldn't figure out why, so they did some x-rays on them, and they had brain abscesses where they had chosen the wrong screw. The screw had punctured the skull and gone through into the dura and caused some brain abscesses. But it's just everyday stuff. The monkeys typically will live 20, 30 years. Some of these animals will live in a stainless steel box for their entire life. We know that many of the monkeys that are in the nation's laboratories become so chronically stressed that they resort to biting themselves, chewing themselves, doing all of these sorts of things. And the primate centers, the monkey labs around the country, they struggle with this all of the time, trying to find some way or the other to alleviate this suffering, the boredom that causes these sorts of behaviors. But this kind of stuff, if we talk about it today, a week from now we forget. A week later we forget again until something comes about that gets it back into the news. So we have to find a way to keep it in the news all of the time. There has to be something that we can do. It's going to rain. You know what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk amongst yourselves. This building right here is going to do something for us. It's going to keep the issue in the public eye 365 days a year. Unlike campaigns that have gone around, that have taken place in the movement, we're not starting a campaign. We're not starting a campaign that has a beginning and an ending. What we're doing today is we're announcing the beginning of a facility that's going to be open to the public, that's going to put on display everything that's going on in primate labs around the United States, and it's going to be there all the time. As information comes out about what's going on in the labs, we'll put it on display. We'll look at the history of what's gone on. We'll take Harlow himself and we'll put his history on display. We'll be holding conferences. We'll be periodically changing the exhibits. We'll be doing everything that we can to keep attention on the issue. This is not a campaign. It doesn't have a beginning until it has a beginning. That's today. It doesn't have an end until we take all of these buildings around us and we turn them all into some sort of a museum for what used to be. Now we'll see how much. I'm a little worried about this with the lightning and thunder. I'm getting ready to get on a metal ladder, and we'll see what happens. So talk amongst yourselves. I hope there's maps here. And we're going to have a presentation, some more information, some literature for you at the Alliance for Animals office at 122 State on the 4th floor. So I invite you to come over after this. There's refreshments. There's a PowerPoint presentation and some more in-depth sorts of reasons and ideas behind this, and certainly specific things that you can do to help. Our hope is that Madison, the people of Madison, will see this as a way to break out of the mold of having to go to a protest and make a little bit of information and then have to come back. That's the wrong bit, Zach. It needs to be a Phillips screwdriver bit. So what we think is that this is one of the things we've said in all of the notices that we've sent out is that this is something different. This hasn't been tried before. The closest that's been tried for this is the Holocaust Memorial. That's the closest thing that we can come as a parallel. The difference between the Holocaust Memorial and this, though, is that the memorial is about something that happened in the past. This is about something that's happening right now. And that's what makes us different. This says it's going to stop, and we're going to make a statement about it, and we're going to keep talking to the public, and we're going to make it as big and as obvious and as visual as we possibly can. Did we find something? Oh, good. Okay.
What?
Move over. I want your shirt. Yeah, stand there so we can see your guys' shirts.
This is the only one of the 8 regional or national primate research centers that you can walk up to as a member of the public and touch. I've been to the others. I've been to the others many times. Every one of them is hidden behind either a chain link fence and you can see it off in the distance, or you can't see it at all from the road. This is the only one that you can actually walk up to and touch the building. It's the only one that you can walk into and look in the windows. This is the only one that when people come to visit, that they'll be able to walk up and down and actually see these things, see the people working in them, and get an idea for what's going on. This is the only one that you walk up to the vents and smell the stench coming out of the building from the animals being kept so closely for so long. This is what we're going to do. So there's a number of speakers. I want to get them in before it rains and electrocutes us all. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it on to Lori Nitzel, the Director of the Alliance for Animals.
I know a lot of you came from other states. We have Iowans here, we have people from Illinois, we have people from, I think, Michigan, people from all over the place. Thank you so much. Of course, the Alliance for Animals is incredibly excited about this project. We were here last year. Many of you came to our conference that we had to oppose the American Society of Primatologists conference. When this idea was born, Rick Bogle and Jeremy Beckham and Zach Larson, and so we've been kind of around for the year watching it progress, and it's been a dream of Rick's, and here we are today bringing this dream to life, and it's an amazing day for all of us. And I just have to say kudos to Rick Bogle, because I've never seen persistence or ingenuity like he's shown over the past year to get this We have a couple of really wonderful people that have offered to speak to us here today, some honored guests. I'd like to go ahead and introduce them. The first speaker is my favorite city council member here in Madison, fighting for those who are underrepresented, for the working poor, one of the most active city council members here. This is actually his district, so we're standing in his district. His name is Austin King, and we're honored to have him, and here he is again speaking for those who can't speak for themselves. Thank you, Austin.
Hi everyone. I guess I go to a lot of ribbon cutting ceremonies or sign unveiling ceremonies in my district, and never very controversial. It's usually a new building that's building. But rarely does just the mere presence of a building contribute so significantly to a civic debate. And that's really what I wanted to say today. I'll be exceedingly brief because of the pending weather. But welcome to the neighborhood. This is obviously a neighborhood with a lot of different uses. We've got residents here that want to be here. We've got residents here that maybe didn't choose to be here. Some that are in cages. And the best way for us to come to terms as a community with what we have in our community is to have an open dialogue about it. And you know, I tend to honestly go both ways on the political question of animal research. I'm certainly not a card-carrying member yet of the Alliance for Animals, although I've been a vegetarian for 7 years. But I do know that this is an important question of our time, and that the debate that will stem from the mere presence of this building and the activities that will go on within it is vital to helping us come to terms with this question and maybe reach some sort of conclusion that is healthy for humans and animals alike, and will increase the amount of humanity in this part of town. So I'm exceedingly proud that this building's opening up in my district. I think it's a great counterbalance. I love the idea of having a geographic representation of opposition right next to the building that is so opposed. And I'm just thrilled about this. I'm of course eager to speak. I speak at a lot of ribbon cuttings, but this one I know is going to last through the ages and probably give me more flack from the university than anything else I've ever done. But this is a great day for debate in Madison, and I'm just really happy to be here. And so I think it's my pleasure now to introduce County Supervisor Al Matano.
Thanks, Rick, for making this happen. This is a great facility. I had to laugh when I was thinking of what Austin was saying about ribbon cuttings. My big political introduction in Madison when I moved here 13 years ago was fighting against Monona Terrace, which was constructed constructed in a lakeshore park and creates a nice play place for the wealthy. And here, this is a much more attractive building in my mind. It serves a much more purpose. So I represent, my name is Al Matano, I represent the 11th district of the Near West Side. It occurred to me that part of my district is the village of Sherwood Hills. And there in the village, the university was presenting their plans for the Interdisciplinary Research Center. And it all sounded like science and very good cutting-edge thinking and putting all the lab researchers near the doctors and the technicians, and there will be 250 marmosets folks per building. So, oh, by the way, so people in the room took some exception to that, but of course, as the UW does, they swept that under the rug. So I think it's great to put faces on the faces of the animals that are subjects to the research. I think part of why people are, part of why animal research goes on as much as it is because it goes on behind closed doors. So this facility will help in a great way to educate the public and it'll shine a light on the research, and somehow even the animal research that goes on behind closed doors to our left and to our right will no longer be going on behind closed doors because of what's going on here. And so I'm very grateful to have been invited here. I'm very proud to be part of this event, and I really praise Rick Bogle for making this happen. It's a lifetime dream for him, and I know for so many of you to have a permanent facility, to have permanent displays on what animal research is all about. So when people are trying to make up their minds about animal research, they can see the actual faces of the actual animals, even if not the animals to our left or to our right as they're suffering, but depictions of them put together by the Alliance for Animals and their Global Health. Thanks.
Bogle and Jeremy Beckham. We were vigiling over here 1 year ago when we got the idea to utilize this building in this most effective and awe-inspiring way. So thanks all very much for coming for the unveiling of this project, and thanks for Jeremy and Rick moving here from California and Oregon respectively to make this dream come true.
And it's one thing to argue that, well, we can do experiments on fruit flies. You can't talk about fruit flies. I don't know enough about the mind of a fruit fly to make an argument one way or the other. But I do know an awful lot about the mind of monkeys. And we know an awful lot about the minds of monkeys because of research that's been done in these primate centers. In spite of the horribleness of the research that they've done, we know beyond any doubt at all, based on scientific evidence, peer-reviewed scientific papers, hundreds of papers, that the animals in the labs are experiencing the world in much the same way that you and I do. We know that. The researchers who are making those discoveries, though, are ignoring the ethical implications of those things. And I don't think that most people, I hope that most people in the country, if they were to understand those things, I don't think that they would feel like the researchers, because they're not being paid to do those things. The people in the labs, of course, all have a vested interest in keeping the research alive. It's very hard for them to make ethical decisions about something that they're paid to do. So we're not going to change their minds. We're not out to change their minds. The researchers, you know, it's like slave owners. You weren't going to convince a slave owner that he needed to free his slaves. What you had to do was get society to say that slavery, owning other people, is wrong. Then we passed laws, and slave owners then had to get rid of their slaves. You were never going to go convince the slave owners that they needed to stop. It's the same thing with the primate labs. It's the same thing with animal use across the board. One of the things I think it's important to know is that we're going to be overt about this in the facility itself. This isn't only about monkeys and apes. Monkeys and apes is our vehicle to talk about the animal-human relationship. That's only our vehicle. And we'll say as much in the facility. We will have a poster or two, a small display someplace talking about every other animal and admitting the fact that this is about the bigger discussion. But to help us with the discussion, to help us understand those differences, we're going to talk about the animals that are most like us.
and talk about the most heinous things that's going on right now paid by American taxes. And it's heinous. You can't, well, I've done nothing but 8 years read about this sort of research. This is all I've done for 8 years. I've read scientific papers, read APHIS reports, read just all of this sort of stuff, and I know a lot about what's going on, and it is there. You could find out too, but it's hard to dig into and find it. It's not, you can't just easily go and find out about this stuff as a member of the public. So, our idea is that, it's maybe because, I don't know if you know, I was a school teacher for a number of years. I taught 6th grade, middle school math and science. And so I really have this belief that teaching is the way, if people know things, then they can become powerful. But they have to know. They can't not know. And so our goal, I guess my whole thing is I see it as a learning center, as an educational display that people will come in, there'll be interactive displays for them, there'll be things that they can do to put themselves in the monkeys' places, read about the history of the research. I think that there'll be campaigns, I'm in that mindset. We'll have exhibitions where we'll ask artists to reflect on primate research itself, and they'll interpret the work their way. And so we'll have art exhibits where people will come in. We'll try to bring in speakers of note. And so we'll talk about Harlow's history. We're going to have, one of the ideas is to have murals on the outside of the building. And you know what trunk rule is? I'm maybe not saying it quite right. But the idea is that on the outside of the building, you walk up, and it looks like you're looking down the hallways of the labs, and you can see the rows of cages on both sides. Maybe at the end of the row, there's somebody doing some horrible thing to a monkey, so that the people that come by, this is, I don't know if you really understood, but this is really a unique location in the United States. There's no other place like this where you can actually stand there and go, this. When you walk down Capitol Court between the Harlow Lab and the Wisconsin Primate Center, you're essentially inside of a monkey lab. There's people crossing the road there with cages of monkeys as they move them from one building to another. You're actually inside the lab. It's amazing. This is like no other place. This has so much potential. As they say in real estate, location, location. So, I have a PowerPoint presentation. I'm going to give you some idea of the kind of things that we might be talking about there. I think pictures, are worth better than my mealy mouth just running on and on and on. I hope that you will take an envelope. I hope that you'll see what we're trying to do. There's a sign-up sheet to stay informed about what's going on. Let me tell you, I better talk about money here a little bit. We have a single donor who's stepped forward. We have some small donors as well, but we have a significant single donor who stepped forward, got so excited about the idea, and said, I'll back it. And so we have the money to buy the building, which is not insignificant.
5 buildings.
I'm sorry, 5 buildings. I don't know if you noticed, but there are 5 buildings there. They go all the way back, and we're surrounded. From our property line, you can actually reach out and touch the Primate Center. That's how close we are. So we have those 5 buildings. We're hoping that maybe down the road, after we do some renovation, maybe even the Alliance could move into one of those buildings. There's a 2-story building in the back. Where there's a new law firm that's starting up, an animal rights law firm. Maybe we can offer them office space so that this facility can become essentially a center for activism around the country. So the eyes of the nation continually keep looking here. We keep having displays that call attention to what's going on. We're going to have to find, to do this, in order to keep the media interested, we're going to have to find ways to be controversial. We're going to draw very clear parallels between about horrible things that have happened in the past with people and what's going on in the labs today. And we're going to be very overt about that. We're going to be controversial because without being controversial, nobody's going to pay any attention to what we're doing. We're going to try to have renewed presentations every 3 months, every 4 months, so that there's another opportunity for publicizing what we're doing, for another title to be publicized out and ask for people to come from around the country and see what's going on. It's just endless. Because it's so new and because it's essentially we have a blank slate there to play with. And so I know that there's artists, I know that there's authors, that there's scientists, that there's There's people with business. There's all of you have something that you can offer. I know that. There's photographers. We need everything. One of my visions is around the outside of the place is these life-size bronzes of these monkeys and these stereo taxi things. So when people drive by, it's just there it is, and they're, you know. So anyway, this wouldn't have happened. This was when I was in front of the Oregon Primate Center. There was a vacant lot behind me, and I had the idea that we would build something like this. I thought, you know, a museum, a drive-by thing like you see that the Park Service puts up, an interpretive center about the Primate Center across the street. It's hard to see that Primate Center, and the property was a little bit more difficult. So last year, that was, by the way, that was 8 years ago. So that was when the idea sort of got formed. But last year, I'm sitting in front of the Harlow Lab with Jeremy Peckham. I don't know where Jeremy is. I'm right here. He's there. And with Zach. And we're talking about the idea. And Zach says, you know, I think that's a private building right there. In fact, I think Roger Charly owns that building. The guy owns a bicycle shop. I'm like, really? He says, yeah, you know, his shop's right on the corner. Let's go ask him. You know, let's go talk to him. And I'm like, oh, okay. So we got up from there, walked around the corner. There's Roger selling a bicycle to somebody. We waited, and he, you know, said, "Can I help you?" And I said, "Well, you know, I introduced myself." I said, "We're sitting over there protesting in front of the Primate Center, and they're the building that you have right there. Those buildings. We realize you own those. I just learned that. And would you be interested in selling that to us?" "No, I don't want to sell the buildings." "Well, you know, we want to build something that's going to criticize the Primate Center, and that's what our goal is for the buildings, is to have something to call attention to what's going on there." "Well, I'll sell it to you." He's been rock solid on this. He's been rock solid. Now, he's a businessman, so he's getting a fair price, but he's been rock solid. And he's going to take a lot of heat from the university now.
Of course.
So, I don't know if you buy bicycles, you buy, you know, here's a plug for Roger Charly. If you buy something for your bicycle, please buy it from Budget Bikes.
Yeah, who is that guy?
He owns Budget Bicycles along Regent Street. You can't stop in on Regent Street to a bicycle shop and have it not be Budget Bicycle.
Yeah.
Okay. Jeremy, do you have anything you want to add? Jeremy? Zach, do you have anything you want to add? Lori? She's gone. Okay. I'm going to do our little PowerPoint thing now, and after that, we can do questions. If questions now, does anybody? Yep.
I just want to throw us out there, but one of the things that came to my mind is the vivisectors, and you know they keep doing it, and some of them know that's wrong to do it. So why are they doing? What is their biggest fear? What are they most afraid of?
I don't know.
Losing a paycheck.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, you have to understand. Some of them think in their mind that they're looking for information that somewhere down the road is going to lead to some advancement for some disease at some future time. Some of them are looking more specifically. They're looking at one of the people that was there today, in fact, was Eric Sangren, who's the chair of the all-campus IACUC here, does colon cancer research on, pancreatic cancer research on mice. He was there, and so when you talk to him, he'll tell you that he's looking for ways to understand pancreatic cancer, so hopefully that he'll find a cure for human pancreatic cancer disease. The problem is, of course, if you look along those lines, you find that the animal research just hasn't played out. It's been as misleading. It's you know the drugs that are on the market today that they have to pull because people get sick. And so, you know, they're as I was mentioning before, they can't make a clear decision. They're so vested in the system. Their paychecks are coming. Their labs are employing half a dozen, sometimes 10, 12 other people from their federal grants. So they're really, I mean, it's a small business. Each one of them has like a small business. So what are they afraid of? They don't want public debate. They don't want their neighbors saying, "What is it that you do?" They don't want that. If they were really interested in public debate and educating the public about what's going on, instead of us trying to figure out ways to present public forums about the issue, about bringing in speakers and talk, the Primate Center would be doing that. The university would bring in people, inviting the public to come in and talk about the use of animals in biomedical research. They don't do that. So I think that they really don't want an educated public. I think an educated public is is not good for them.
So that's probably the way to win some battles against
With the
them.
public, our battle is all with, it's all, you know, we are the public. It's not activists, researchers, and the public. That's not the way it is. There's researchers, and then there's members of the public that get concerned. That's us. We are the public. And we just have to tell more of us what's going on, because then more of us will care. I think most of us just don't know. Yeah, I think that if you go to the mall, and as people come out and you say, hi, you know, do you know anything about animal research? Do you know what's going on at the Primate Center? Could you explain one of the experiments going on there? No, they're going to say no. But do you think they're, you know, saving human lives? Oh, yes. So they don't know. It's a horrible ignorance thing. Yeah.
Well, is there danger of the university infiltrating the plan commission and the zoning board and everything? They're going to buy out the influential people on the plan commission, for instance, in their district, so that they could put a hog in the wheel.
Yes, there's always a risk. There's always a risk that the university will use its big hammer to come down on us and find a way to circumvent the system and be able to have their way with us. They could declare eminent domain and take the property. They could do any kind of thing legalistically that they can. We on our side of the table, we at least have you know 4 attorneys that are watching out for our interests. That now, if the university comes after us, there's nothing we can do. But that can't be a reason not to move forward. That just is a reason to say we better watch out for this, and we ought to have everything organized and think that we're doing everything as according to the regulations and that we can. The property is zoned for exhibition hall. It's specific to that zoning. You're going to have an exhibition hall right there. So we're having an exhibition hall right there. If it said we could have pool hall there, we'd have had the animal rights pool hall right there.
It would be a good idea to be on good terms with the plan commission.
Yeah. I think it was amazing that we had both Austin and Al today. This, by the way, this is one of a researcher's monkey in researcher's name is Lisberger, and at University of California, San Francisco. And you can't read. In print, this is much better. It says, I think it's just like having a National Holocaust Museum at the gates of Auschwitz during the Holocaust. Picture, of course, down there at the bottom left is one of Carlos' monkeys. This is an interesting picture, I think. We have so much historical information. This is from like 1932 or something like this. And I mean, times have changed, and we now look back at these sorts of images and displays and go, God, that's weird. You know.
What's wrong with those people?
Well, that's right. See, actually, nothing was. They were just, they were just in their own time, and that's the way the world appeared to them. Now, looking back, my 6th grade students, it was funny, they'd always look back and say, well, why didn't they have cars back then? How stupid were those people? Didn't know those things yet. And they didn't, apparently back then they thought that chimpanzees were larger than gorillas. So that's an odd sort of, anyway. Of course, the similarities we've used in all sorts of ways. This is one of the chimpanzees that was used at the Holloman Air Force Base during those NASA days. Chimpanzees on a rocket sled, generated, something like, I don't know, thousands and thousands of feet a second in just no time at all. Just high rates of acceleration. Many of the animals were killed, of course. His eyes are totally crippled. Yes.
So about what decade is this?
This is in the. This is prior to the. I'm sorry, I'm blocking your way. I'll just sit down here. This is prior to. It's pre Alan Shepard days. So this is probably in the late 50s. They went through a lot of chimpanzees here. And this is where we were today, of course. And it's sandwiched between these places. It's and this is it. It's like a Holocaust museum at the gates of Auschwitz. That's exactly what it is. And so nothing like this has ever been tried before. PETA apparently, they'll do their thing out on the mall where and tourists come, but this is different. This is trying to get people of Madison to understand, try to make this thing a national spectacle, and try to get the eyes of the nation on the issue. I'll read it. The animal-human relationship is based on the false notion that we are fundamentally different from them in ways that exempt them from our ethical concerns. Examining and criticizing human use of other primate species most easily and richly addresses this archaic and dark idea. It's a lemur. This is a lemur that actually is looking at, images on a screen and responding to whether they're alike or different or something like that. And it makes no difference how much similarity they find, they're just going to keep using them in pretty bad ways. The exhibition hall's permanent presence and clear voice will be impossible to ignore. Unlike common campaigns of the movement, the exhibition hall has the potential to grow ever more present and forceful. It's the 800-pound gorilla that nobody will be able to ignore. And our goal is to focus the eyes of the nation on Madison. Madison is interesting. It's a small community relative to city size. There's only 200,000 people here. We actually could have a political voice in this issue here. We could actually come up with some sort of a citizen initiative and do something about limiting this here. This could be the starting point for things stopping and changing in the United States. It's amazing. Madison has such a nice progressive already tradition. So a lot of people willing to look at these issues and think about them critically. We're going to detail our current and our historical use of monkeys and apes. There's a profound similarity between us. One of the things we think that some of the displays have to be interactive. We think that somebody has to be able to go into one of the chambers that Harlow kept his monkeys in. We think that there has to be a human-sized restraint chair that you could be locked into to get some idea. A small stainless steel scaled version of a cage to try to get some guess about what it might be to spend the rest of your life in that sort of a box. The picture on the bottom is an older image. This is from Science magazine, and the study in that picture, they raised infant monkeys from about a day of birth, just a few hours after they were born, put them in this thing, and didn't let them see the rest of their body. And then after 3 months or something like that, they let them out to see if they could normally behave, seeing their arms and their legs for the first time. I'm sure that's led to lots of benefits for everyone. The exhibition hall is certain to be controversial. Its location, of course, guarantees this. We're going to try to find ways to point out the controversy, the similarities to things that have happened in the past and to the things that are happening today. A long time ago, people would have said animals are so different from humans that these are absurd comparisons. We now know that they're using monkeys specifically because their brain architecture, their psychologies, their emotions are so much like ours that they believe that the experiments that they do to them lead to direct applicability to understanding the human brain.
Excuse me.
Yes?
What are those images on the right?
They're all ex-Holocaust images. These are all images from the vivisection labs at Auschwitz. And again, we're establishing a permanent facility located at the very entrance to two of the most notorious vivisection laboratories in the world. I guarantee right now the Primate Center is a little concerned. They are not knowing how do you deal with this. This is not a protest that we now talk about and spin our way. This is not going to go away. There's so much evidence. We have so much evidence about what's going on in the labs. I think that the Newsweek cover is very interesting to me. This was the cover is from 1978 or something like that. And there was a time that the media was willing to show these things because they thought the public wouldn't react. That's changed. Now when you see images of monkeys used in experiments in magazines, they're very carefully edited. And they'll have the top of it's all been cropped away, so you might see the animal's face, but you won't see the details of the chair, the stuff in his head. It's quite horrible. There's been so many lies and cover-ups, especially here in Madison. The director of the Primate Center here, Joe Chemnitz, said at one time that all of the primate centers operate in the same way. We're going to use that to our advantage, that truth. We think that that's true. My understanding, as I've read this and learned all of these things about the primate center, is that, and the primate centers around the country, is that it is true. If you find out something that's bad that's happening at one of them, if you dig and look hard enough, it turns out that's just the way they all operate. So we have tons of this stuff. Just the vilest monkey situation alone in Madison here generated 200 newspaper articles. We have tons of information about this stuff. There's just so much. I thought, you can't read this because of the resolution on the screen, but I thought this was interesting. Well, I'll read this to you. This is from Jordana Lennon, the public relations officer. She posted this to all the local media last week. I wanted to inform you, if you haven't already heard, that the Alliance for Animals is planning an on-site protest against research using animals, especially primates, for next Saturday, June 4th at 1 o'clock. The last time they hosted an on-site protest was last June during the American Society of Primatologists meeting that we hosted. Only 5 people showed up at our facility last year. That's a picture of the protest.
I guess she was there.
They can't get their facts straight. And every time you listen carefully to what they say and you look into it, it's of course not every time, that's hyperbole, but often that is the case. So that was an easy one to prove because we were there. And I remember more than 5 people. There's Jeremy and there's me with my back. You can see me on the spot on my back. So anyway, she was embarrassed by that.
You think?
One of the things we're going to show is that there's good evidence that research on animals hasn't led to very many benefits for humans. I think the first quote is pretty interesting. This is Albert Sabin. Albert Sabin was the developer of the polio vaccine. Work on polio prevention was long delayed by an erroneous conception of the nature of human disease based on misleading experimental models of the disease in monkeys. The one underneath that is from Richard Klausner. He's the director of the National Cancer Institute. The National Cancer Institute, the National Institutes of Health is divided into about 27 or 28 institutes. The National Cancer Institute, the National Institute of Child Health, Human Development, National Institute of Acquired Immunological Diseases, all these different things, about 27 of them. This is a National Cancer Institute, one of the biggest ones. Since the history of cancer research has long been a history of curing cancer in the mouse. We've cured mice of cancer for decades, and it simply didn't work in humans. And on and on and on. There's lots of that kind of stuff. My friend and colleague, Dr. Ray Greek, is probably the leading expert in this area, probably in the world. He's spent years and years now doing research, looking at the claims of the biomedical research industry and trying to run down the claims that they make. When they say that this was cured based on animal research, he goes and he looks and he reads all of the stuff, and well, he's pretty much debunked most of it. Pretty interesting. So we need your help. I don't think there's ever been an opportunity to affect change like this is what's happening starting here today. Never. The ultimate effect is impossible to establish, is impossible to overreach, I think. You have the opportunity to help establish a beacon for the movement and a catalyst for sweeping change by becoming a founding supporter. I'm talking to you about money now. Imagine the effect the Holocaust Museum would have had at the gates of a Nazi death camp. What would the public have said if somebody could put images of Mengel's children in front of the lab while he was doing that? I think that people would have had a reaction. And I think if we do this, I don't think people are going to be able to ignore it. One of the things we're trying to do for the people that really want to get behind us is we're hoping to find 1,000 $1,000 donors. It would be 1,000 bricks. If 1,000 people make a $1,000 donation, we're here forever. And so I don't think that there's a lot of people that can make that large of a donation, but we're hopeful. Only 1,000 people is all it would take to do this. And we'd like to give those people special recognition, of course, by doing something about acknowledging them. I think one of the walls inside of the building would be great to pave with people's. Also, I think that it sends a signal to other people who come visit. Look at all the people who are behind us and support this idea. How else can you help, though, if you can't make a large donation right away? Do you have business skills? I'm not a businessman. I don't know jack about running a business. I'm not a very good artist. I'm not a horrible artist, but I'm certainly not able to illustrate, research things. I'm not able to draw a lifelike presentation of a monkey. I certainly need help doing that. We all need help doing that. Maybe you know something about advertising. Can you write? Have you produced public displays in the past? Do you have design skills? Are you an architect? Do you like talking to the public? We need docents. We need volunteers that when people come to visit, they can walk them through and answer questions about what they're seeing. Are you a photographer? You have this right away. Soon we're going to need carpenters, plumbers, electricians, painters, sheetrockers, masons, glazers, everybody that's involved in construction, because the building on the inside has been gutted, because right now it's just being used as a warehouse for bicycles. So once all that gets out, we got to go in and we got to turn it into a world-class exhibition hall. Do you know people in the media? Talk to them about what's going on. Can you organize a fundraiser? You know bands that will put on a thing for us? You know, can you hold an auction, a raffle? What can you do? Do you have celebrity friends? You always hear, you know, we're only this many steps away from all these famous people. Well, there's enough of us in the room, we must know everybody in the world. So, you know, and can you keep a simple thing like, can you keep brochures stocked in a community info outlet, like at the co-op or something, or other places around town, to make sure that there's always some. And this is what I think, is that I think that everybody in the room has something that they could do to help. And I don't know what it is because I don't know everybody's expertise. But my hope is that this becomes something that the local community, the animal rights community, and especially the Madison community gets behind. And it's not a Rick Bogle thing, it's not a Primate Freedom on Alliance thing, it's a Madison community thing. That would just rock. Imagine a Holocaust museum being built. See, I taught 6th grade, so I have to tell you this over and over. Would it have made a difference? Would people have taken a greater notice sooner? I think so. And I'm sure that more people would have been informed. There's no less of an opportunity today. We can become a public voice and challenge what's going on right where it's happening. We need your help. We've got the 5 buildings. We have to renovate them. And the sooner we do it, the sooner that we open our doors. It was wonderful today to be able to unveil the sign and get everybody there. But the day that we unlock the door and put open in that window, I'm going to pee my pants. So is the Primate Center. So that's us. We're the Primate Freedom Project. We moved here. The Alliance for Animals got excited about this. They're part of this. This is a partnership. I'd like the partnership to grow and become community-wide. And thank you for your time. I'll sure answer any questions. And that's all I have to say. I urge you to visit these 2 websites. And so at the time of these videos, these brochures are over here on this table. I urge you to grab one of these. National Primate Research Exhibition Hall, that's us there on the right. We're hoping to do that. Well, in probably about 2 months, probably, I'm guessing, time all of the briefs are read and the judge gets to make her decision. We'll probably find out whether or not the judge is going to say that our contract is valid and order Roger Charly to sell us the property. At that point, we'll probably appeal. It will probably be in court for another long period of time. We expect that even if we were to win the property, which we hope to prevail, we think we will, we think we have a strong legal case, we expect that the university would step in and try to take the property under eminent domain. They don't want to have people talk about the issue publicly. They've made the claim that they need that property because they want to expand. It's going to save them $3 million, $3 to $5 million if they have that piece of property. But they've already built around that piece of property. That was their most recent addition. Built completely around it. Jogged the property up and built around, and the part of the building that's falling down is the entirely opposite end. They didn't buy out Roger Charly before they knew that we were interested in the property. They're very much interested in it today. Yes?
Why is Roger Charly trying to break the contract?
Well, why is Roger Charly trying to break the contract? We offered Roger $675,000 for the property. The university found out that he had promised to sell it to us, and they're offering him $1 million for it. So the most straightforward answer is he thinks he's going to make an extra, $325,000. His explanation for his greed is that he's learned that the people that are going to move in there are violent, radical terrorists, and that they'll probably be running over and slitting the throats of the vivisectors, and he'll be responsible for that. Shortly after they learned that we were going to buy the property, representatives from the Primate Center went over and talked to him, and in fact told him that my friend Jeremy Beckham was responsible for millions of dollars worth of damage to primate centers around the country. It's ludicrous. There hasn't been millions of dollars of damage to the primate centers of any. So it just fabricated stuff to frighten him and to give him some sort of an out. So when he just up front looked greedy, he could say, "Oh no, I have other reasons for not doing that." Although he did turn right around and offers a piece of property a block away. So I guess he felt we wouldn't run that fast back.
So the Alliance was purchasing this property?
Well, actually, a single donor was going to loan us the money, and in fact, we stand with money in hand trying to do that, and then would make actually me a personal loan, and I would have then the property would have been in his name, and then it would have been my responsibility to buy that back from him. But the Alliance grant was kind of a great project through fundraising would have been basically, I hope, would have raised the money to do that.
Did we have a verbal contract? Is there a
Oh, we have a written contract that's notarized, recorded, signed, sealed, and
Wire
delivered.
money up front?
Yep.
And
Yeah. Yeah. It just says when we have this many days to show up with the money. And then as soon as the Primate Center, we had actually
both your names and the owner's name?
everybody, so both of them signed, notarized, recorded, the whole 9 yards. Yeah. Now, one interesting thing about that is that the law firm that defended Roger, that in court is defending the contract, is the president of the
Board of Regents.
The Board of Regents is a partner in that law firm. So we're kind of immediately going right up against the UW.
That's not considered a conflict of interest?
Apparently not, because they're defending Roger. They're really not even a party to this